We used this spreadsheet in a previous video to explain absolute and relative cell references and freeze panes. We also showed that you could use input boxes to manipulate the data within a worksheet. So if I change this margin from 25 to 50, you'll see that these numbers down here will change as well. That's all fine and good, but what if someone were to come up here and type in cat? Then we have errors throughout the sheet. For today's example, we're going to show you how to add data validation and do lookups. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create an input field that has some data validation. In this case, I'm going to use a drop-down list. So I select the field, I click on my Data tab, go to Data Validation, and I'm going to choose List. My source is going to be my range of product IDs. So I want to start at the top and scroll down to the bottom, and then we'll just hit OK. What you see now is that we have a drop-down box, and now I can select any product ID that's within my list. The next thing that I need to do is I need to make this drop-down box actually look something up. And we're going to start that. We can do that in two different ways. You can use DGET or you can use VLOOKUP. In this case, I'm going to use VLOOKUP. So I'm going to start my function with the equal sign. I'll type VL, and there's VLOOKUP. Hit Tab, and it opens right up. And in any function, it's going to tell you what it needs to be successful. So in this case, I need a lookup value. That's going to be the value that I'm going to use to look up my data, and it's going to be in this field. I want this to be absolute referenced because I don't want it to change if I drag anything. The next thing I need to define is my table array. So where does the data that I'm going to use live? And it's all down here. So this is my range, my table array, and I'm going to make that absolute as well because I don't want that changing when I drag things. The next thing it's going to ask for is the column index. And this is where it gets kind of confusing. It does say column index number. A lot of people will try to put B, C, D, E, or one of those things. When it says column index number, it means the numeric value for the column within your table array. So in this table array, I have 6 values, column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what I'm looking for in this case is the product ID, which would be in column number 1. And then we're going to hit comma, and the very last thing it looks for is how do we match? Is that match going to be an approximate match or an exact match? In this case, I want an exact match. I can simply click on false if I choose, or I can use the shorthand 0 for false. And what we have now is a lookup field. So if I change this product ID, you'll see that it changes this lookup because it's actually pulling the data from here. Now, what everybody wants to do at this point is they want to take this and they want to drag it right across. And then they go, oh, it's broken. Why doesn't it work? And they start looking at absolute references. In this case, what you're going to find is when we select one of these and we start going back, is that the 0, we'll take that off of there. When we get to our column index number, notice that did not increment as I moved across, and it can't because it's just a numeric value. So let's go ahead and put this back. And I will show you very quickly some of the ways that we can fix this. The first way, of course, is you can numerically go in there and type 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that's fine if you have a very small data set, but it's not going to work well for very large data sets. What we can do is we can use another function called match. And what match is going to do is it's going to give me that numeric value for each column. So I want to know what my lookup value is. In this case, my lookup value is product ID. And then I want to know what my array lookup is, and this is going to be all of the headers. That's what I want to look for, and I'm going to make that an absolute reference because I don't want that to move when I drag it. And it says, okay, what type of match would we want? Less than, greater than, or exact match? Again, I'm going to use exact match, which is 0. And now it's going to define this is column 1, but when I drag this, it's going to show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now the reason for this is because I have this relative cell reference up here. And that allows when it drags for it to move, but I have absolute on the actual headers, meaning that they can't. So as I drag, B13 changes, and you'll see we're in column D and it's on D13. So that works how I expect it to work. So how do I get this up here? Well, I could come here and reference, if I wanted to, this cell, right? And then I could move this across. And that would work. But then it would require that these remain at the top and they don't look so pretty. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to nest the function inside of the other function. I'm going to go back to my VLOOKUP function and I'm going to remove it all the way to the column index number. Then I'm going to type match. I'm going to choose my lookup value, comma. I'm going to choose my lookup array, and I'm going to make that absolute, comma. I want an exact match, so that's 0. As I close my match function, you'll see that it returns to VLOOKUP, and it's going to tell me, okay, you're on column index number. I'm going to hit comma, and it's going to go to the range lookup. This is going to be the match. I want it to be false as well, and I need to remember to close that. And it goes away telling me that the formula is complete. So I hit enter. Now when I drag this, what's going to happen is it's going to pull all of the proper data. And this way, no matter what I do, it's going to work. So I'm going to go back up to home. I'm going to format that, and it gives me what I want. And if I come here and I change my product ID, all the information changes. We no longer need these column values here, so we'll get rid of those, and it's functioning as expected. So again, that nested formula is VLOOKUP, right? And then it's going to have my lookup value, my table array. I'm going to run match in my column index, and then I want an exact match. Another way of doing this is using DGET, which is database get. So we'll use DGET. It wants us to define the database. In this case, the database is all of the values, including the headers. So we go ahead and we get our database. We're going to make that an absolute reference. The next thing that we want to do is we want to get our field. So we're going to look at our product ID. We're not going to make this an absolute reference because we know we're going to want to drag the data across and populate other fields. And the last thing is our criteria. Very important, you have to have a matching header and input box because it has to follow the same pattern that you have in your data table. So we're going to take this and select both of those for the criteria, and I want to make that an absolute reference as well. So we'll go ahead and hit enter on that. You'll see that our product ID is here. When I change the product ID, it works. And then we just drag it across, and again, works as expected. Take this and format it. So we've used DGET and VLOOKUP in combination with a drop-down box to be able to find data quickly. Now this will work across spreadsheets, it'll work across different files. VLOOKUP works across pretty much anything, and it's a great way to combine data or find data within a very large sheet. It can be used for GL codes and various other functions like that. So great piece of information to know, and I hope you enjoyed the video.